Did I get it?
Yeah,
Okay,
you
good.
did. You did. You did.
Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, it's a really interesting background. Can you tell me a little bit about your CGI animation background and meeting your husband in Canada and then coming over? I love that backstory.
Sure. So I'm originally from Quebec, a small town in the northeast of Quebec in Canada, and I started studying 3D animation. I think it was in 2010, and then I finished the program, started working in CGI in Montreal. Soon realized that it wasn't really for me. Mostly because of the being indoors part, I think. And there was also a part of me who really wanted to travel, as I think a lot of people, can relate to that. So I bought a ticket to Australia, which for what I thought was going to be 3 months, and it ended up being 4 years, nearly 5 years. So I established myself in New Zealand for the most part, and then I went to Australia as well, Southeast Asia, a lot of places, met a lot of beautiful people, and as soon as I actually came back to Canada, when I was like, okay, I need to go back home, it was mostly for the lack of visa that I had to go back, but I went back home, and then I found a job to teach yoga at a rafting resort in British Columbia. So I thought that's perfect. It's as far from my home as possible in Canada. Not that I don't like home, but I wanted some adventure. So I went to that place, which was about 3 hours east of Vancouver, and I met my husband there. So he was a rafting guide at that same resort, and I was a yoga teacher there, as well as doing work around the rafting base. And so he was on his working holiday visa in Canada, so it kind of made sense that we had to, if we wanted to stay together, I had to move to Japan, which is not something that I had planned at all prior to that point. I didn't know any Japanese. I didn't really, I mean, I knew a little bit about Japanese culture, but not so much. I think I learned when I came here, which could have been a little bit of a silly way to do things. I did learn a few things before coming, but it was very much learning as I went back then. So we came back to Japan. We worked. Well, he had worked previously at that company, which is actually next to where Violet is in Otoyo. So we worked there. Well, I worked there for a season. He had worked there for like about 8 seasons before. He had worked in Minakami as well. And then after, we were like, I think we want to start our own business because of several reasons, but the main one being that we wanted to have the freedom to choose what to do with the business. And I also had some background, not especially in marketing, but in design and visual effects. So that's also part of doing the marketing, doing Instagram, Facebook, etc. So we thought we can probably wing that. So we were road tripping around the island. We found this place here, and we're like, this is stunning. Someone should start a business here, and so we did. We started the business in January last year, and yeah, and now we've been living here since. So and we don't have any regrets. I think I can talk
Wow,
for
that's
both of us.
awesome.
Yeah.
And starting a business right before coronavirus. Have you been able to survive on domestic customers, or I mean, I would assume that a lot of international visitors would be very interested in what you do. So how has the coronavirus time been?
Yeah, actually, it has been kind of a blessing for us to start the business in January, because if we were working for someone else, it would have been very difficult to have any work because obviously there was no tourism. And if there was people coming, it would have been, the people who own the company who would have gone for example, rafting trips. So we didn't have any employees yet, right, at that point. So that was also a very good thing. We didn't have to worry about providing for anyone else but the two of us. So that was good. As far as the people coming to us, we have one of the only English websites in Shikoku, I believe. I don't want to speak too fast, but from what I've seen, not a lot of companies have got English websites. So usually when people come from Tokyo or Osaka, obviously that hasn't been happening so much, but some people have been coming, and then they always said that they found us through Google, which is very interesting because usually it takes a long time to be recognized on Google and to be well established. So that was something that we kind of bypassed because there was not a lot of people with any other language but Japanese. And yes, we have been able to survive on um, domestic customers, people coming mostly from Kochi, from Shikoku. And since we were a new business, a lot of people wanted to try it out because they've never really experienced the canyon and the river in that way, that you really immersed in it. You can obviously look at it from the side, but it's not the same thing as if you're in the canyon and you're really kind of experiencing it from below, which is an amazing feeling. So we've
Yeah.
been very
Well,
lucky in that
just
sense.
just to pause there for a second, I love how you have transitioned from a life in front of a screen doing CGI to being an outdoor guide and adventure specialist for travelers in this beautiful area of Kochi, Japan, on Shikoku Island. Just to give the viewers outside of Japan an idea of where you guys are, let's bring the map back a
Mhm.
little bit. And so it looks like if I was to drive from the Hiroshima area, it would take me about 4.5 hours to drive. And it's about the same coming from Osaka or Kyoto, that area, or even Okayama. But I guess most people from Tokyo, they would fly. And even from Osaka, it's about an hour to fly. And then maybe rent a car when they're there, or you guys would pick them up. Is that right?
Yep, that's right. So a lot of people actually, it was surprising to me how much of the visit on our websites are from the Hiroshima and Osaka and Kyoto area, and a few from Tokyo as well. So yeah, people are definitely interested in Shikoku. I think it's just very remote. It's kind of wild, so it's not really a typical um, destination. So I think a lot of people are interested in that. And yes, to answer your question, people usually drive when they come from the Kansai area. That being said, from Tokyo, it's very rare that someone's going to drive all that way. We've done it before, but I wouldn't recommend it if it's just for a weekend. So yeah, you can fly to Kochi Ryoma Airport and then either rent a car from there. We do offer pickups from the airport, but in general, I would say if you really want to enjoy your time in Shikoku and the goal is not only to come here, renting a car would be probably the best idea because there's so many nice remote areas to go to that you wouldn't be able to access through train or tram or anything like that. So I would definitely recommend renting a car. As far as someone coming on JR goes, the closest JR station is about 30 minutes away from here, but we do offer free pickup. So if someone is coming through by train, that's also possible.
Awesome. Yeah, so it's definitely worth getting there. It's a little bit out of your way, but the kind of offerings that you guys have and the fees that you're charging for the services is very reasonable. So if people can come and stay, like how long would you recommend they stay? At least 3 nights, 4 days, you think?
Yeah, I would say so. I think there's so many things to do around here. There's also amazing cafes, local tea that you can experience. There's a really nice coffee shop. Well, there's many, but there's a very nice coffee shop around 5-10 minutes drive away from us. There's an onsen. There is a newly opened craft brewery in the mountain about 10 minutes away from our base. And there's free campgrounds everywhere. So that's the one of the best about the area is that you can for the most part, if you see a beach, you can pitch your tent for free. So that's been a huge appeal for people as well who are camping enthusiasts.
Yeah, that makes a big
Mm.
difference because actually in other areas of Japan, it's not that easy to just pitch a tent on a random beach or riverside, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm showing your website right now, Niyodo Adventure. Great website, by the way. Very easy to navigate. Lots of great pictures. We're going to go through some of the great pictures soon for the adventure sports that you guys offer. But you're also talking about the local area here. So you talk about onsen, which is for people unfamiliar outside Japan. Onsen is a natural hot spring bath, which is such a great part of Japanese culture to soak in an onsen after an active day. I love it. Craft beer, local craft beer. Oh my gosh, what a great asset to the area. You also talk about fishing. So, the main feature that you guys are using for your services as well is all based around the river. Is that right?
That's correct. There is three rivers that we go on, and there is the main canyon is right in front of me right now, like down there, and it's the Nakatsu Canyon. And then there's the Niyodo River, which is the main river, and then there's a few connecting to that main river.
Awesome. Let's talk about some of the adventure travel and I would say ecotourism that you guys offer, sustainable tourism, because you're not using fossil fuels to run boats or anything. It's all using nature and trying to leave a very light footprint. Is that right?
That is definitely correct. Yeah, that's the thing that the main thing that drove us to start this business is that we care about nature deeply, and that's not only our way to reconnect with nature, but also to invite people to do the same. And when there is rubbish, which is quite rare, I must say, but we always pick it up and we take it with us. So yes.
That's awesome and so important. We have talked to Dave Enright, who is in the Hakuba area of Nagano, and he's also cleaning up along the riverside. He's doing similar rafting experiences. It's great to have another area of Japan worth seeking out. It's so different in terms of what you're going to see around the area and looks like you have some rapids as well as canyoning. So tell me about canyoning.
So canyoning is, I would say, our main activity because people are not really familiar with what the other activity is, which we can talk about in a minute. But canyoning is going in a canyon or a valley, and then it can be quite different from a company to the other. So it's good to look on the website on what that involves. For some people, it's abseiling. It can be having a I've got the French word in my head, a zip line. It can be jumping in the water, like cliff jumps, things like that. It can just be enjoying yourself in the canyon. For us, we don't have a zip line just yet, but we're kind of working on it. That's something that I've been pushing because I really want it. And so that involves you being immersed in the nature and then doing some cliff jumps, doing some abseiling, and all that in a safe environment. So obviously with some guides, which is not something that you could do otherwise. And the view is just amazing. Sometimes we post, well, sometimes we post photos on our social media quite regularly, but even locals from the area who've lived here for 50, 60, 70 years, they think it's another country because they have never seen it from that angle or from within the canyon. So we're really proud of that, and we're really happy that we can bring that to people, and even people who thought they knew everything about their own town, and then they can see other aspects of it or other angles.
That's awesome. So have you guys had training in Canada for canyoning, or is this something you've trained and learned since you started the business?
So I personally, I don't go on the canyoning tour. I usually go on the PackRaft tour. My husband, yeah, is definitely heavily trained in canyoning. So he's trained mostly in Japan in Minakami. There's a lot of outdoor. There's wilderness first aid course. There is canyoning courses, and then he's been a raft guide for nearly 10 years. So he's definitely very comfortable in the water. And prior to that, he was a scuba diving instructor, and he's studied marine biology, so he really likes the water. Just he really likes it. And then, so as far as I go, I definitely enjoy going on the canyoning tour, but I it's just so much to think about that I'd rather, hire another guide to just be 100% sure that there's no problem in the canyon. As far as pack rafting goes, I'm definitely more comfortable, and he has been the one training me to go on the pack raft tour. So I never go by myself. It's always with my husband to guide, and it's mostly to translate when we have English people coming or French people coming. So I'm going to be on the river with him. But it's
That's
very
awesome.
important.
Yeah.
The training is paramount. You
Yeah.
need to have training, because something can, things happen really quick and it can be really bad, especially with canyoning. I would say it's if you get injured in the canyon, it's way more difficult than if you get injured on the water, on the river, in terms of access and getting out of the canyon. So yeah, it's the training is definitely very important.
Yeah. I actually tried canyoning not far from Hiroshima City. There's a young entrepreneur trying to get that started around here as well. And even though it was a rainy day, no problem to go canyoning. So that's really great when you have an outdoor adventure already booked, that you don't have to worry too much about the weather if it's light rain. But then he was saying, as I'm sure your husband knows as well, you do really have to watch the weather, because if the water suddenly rises or becomes stronger, safety is such a paramount concern, I imagine, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And now we're very lucky because we moved in a house that's right next to the canyon. So we have a gauge. There's this one rock that if it's in water, it means we can't go canyoning. And then if it's above the water, it means that it's okay to go, but we always go double check. Whereas before, we lived about 20, 30 minutes away from here. So we always had to drive, double check in the morning, then call everyone, and like, okay, it's good to go. As far as the rain goes, though, you're gonna get wet anyway, so that's that's fine. As far as the rain is not torrential, and in that case, it's very important to watch out for flash floods. But we're also very lucky in the location, because if there's too much rain, we can go pack rafting, and if there's too much rain for pack rafting, we can go to another river, and then if that is also out of the question, we can go rafting, so on a big boat instead of individual boats. So we have quite a lot of choice. It's pretty rare that we cancel tours altogether, except if there's a typhoon, or if the person is really just interested in canyoning and doesn't want to go, for example, rafting or pack rafting. So in that case, um, cancel cancels happen. Is that how you say it? Yeah.
Cancellations, yeah, yeah.
Cancellation.
um
Cancellations. I had a blank.
but that's such a good way to do it, right? Like, you also can teach yoga, you have onsens in the area, so as long as you plan a few days, or a week would be great, to spend in the area, then if one day is not perfect, or even the morning is not good but the afternoon is fine, you can be a bit flexible and get people out enjoying the outdoors during that time. But if someone just comes one night, 2 days, that would be really difficult. Big risk of cancellation, maybe, right?
Yeah, definitely, especially around this time, because it's the rainy season, so it can be quite dependent on the weather, like you just mentioned. And also, there's so many other cool things to do around here. Like, you drive 2 hours away south, and you've got Shimanto, and there's amazing surfing there. Uh, and there's a man who's Australian who has a school as well. So if you don't speak any Japanese, and you want to experience something, that's also something that's amazing. I've gone and I loved it, even though I couldn't really stand up. But that's another That's another subject. And yeah, Kochi and Shikoku has so much to offer that you wouldn't want to just stay in on the island for 1 night or 2 nights. I would say, yeah, for easily a week going around. There's a really cool treehouse cafe that's called Ivy on Instagram for people who are interested. And there's Kamikatsu as well, which you have mentioned several times on your podcast.
Yeah. And
And
that's
yeah,
that's a couple hours drive away. It's not too far. Even though it's on the same Shikoku Island, it does take time because you've got mountain roads. So it's not that easy. When you look on the map, make sure you take into account that there are big mountains around. So even
yeah.
from Kamikatsu to, I think I was looking one of my trips to Kamikatsu, I was thinking I'll just go over to the Iya Valley, and I
Mm.
think it was 2 hours, even though on the map it's not far away, but you have to kind of go around the mountains, right?
Yeah, it can be 50 kilometers away and it still takes you an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Because it's mountain roads and because the traffic is pretty slow here. Like back in Canada, it's 100 k's away. You can do it in an hour, but here that's not at all how it works. I don't know if it's everywhere in Japan because most of my Japanese life I've lived on Shikoku, so I don't really know what's happening elsewhere. But the here, yeah, it takes forever to get anywhere, but it's enjoyable too. You can stop, go for a swim, do something, go for a hike. But
As
that's
long
some.
as long as, like I said before, as long as you're not in a rush, as long as you have a little time, and you've got craft beer there, you've got onsens there, you rent out sauna tents, which we're going to talk about. So there's a lot of versatility in terms of what you guys are offering to make a well-rounded trip, no matter how long you stay or what you want to do. Let's talk about PackRaft. I'm so excited about this, and this is your specialty, right?
Yeah, I love to think that. Yeah, I love backrafting so much. It's great because I've been around people who kayak for a long time, whitewater kayak, and that's not really a sport that's easy to, I would say, get into, because it takes a lot of technique. You have to buy a boat, which is a few $1,000s. So I think packraft is a great gateway into whitewater kayaking if that's something that people are interested in, or just by itself is also amazing. So everyone's kind of familiar with what a raft is, and it can be quite a big boat. It can have 8, sometimes 10 people, sometimes 6. So these pack rafts are individual, so you control your own boat, which is super exciting. Especially if you've gone rafting a few times, and then you're like, oh yeah, like now I'm ready for maybe the next step, or you just want to see what it's like to control your own boat. And then we go through grade 2 rapids on the river. So the rapids go from 0 being flat water to level 5, well 6 being like the Niagara Falls. So that's not really, that you can't, unrunnable basically. And then 5 being really big waterfalls and such. So that's not in anything that we're doing either. We're staying within like the two grade. So that means that you still get a few rapids, and then flips do happen. So you both can flip, but you're just in the water and you can swim on the side, and that's also in a very safe environment. So that's a great part of it, because there's a lot of our customers who do have their own pack rafts, but they don't necessarily want to go by themselves on like this type of river. They prefer staying on flat water just in case. So we offer that kind of level up for people who already have pack rafts, and for people who've never done kayaking really, in their life, which is also another amazing thing, is that pack rafts are around 1 or 2 kg, so you can easily carry them. If, let's say, you see a rapid and you don't want to do it, you're like, that I don't really feel that one. You can just take your pack raft on your shoulder, walk around it, and then keep going. Uh,
Wait, 1 to 2 kilograms? Because I have a blow up stand up and paddle, and I think it's at least 10 kilograms. So that's amazing. The pack
mhm.
rafts, are they made in Japan? Where do you get them from?
So no, they're not made in Japan. People who supply them are based in Japan, and to my knowledge, there are no pack rafts being manufactured in Japan. Most of them are either made in China, some of them are made in Canada, and some of them are made in New Zealand. But I believe they're also manufactured in China. So it's just a matter of picking a good Chinese supplier, and they are made out of TPU, which is the same material that makes dry bags. So it's pretty light. It's not like PVC, the big boats that are super heavy. So yeah, it's great. So a lot of people do what's called a pack raft and biking tour. So bike bike rafting, or uh, so you can actually kind of fold your bike on top of your pack raft, go down the river, and then when you want to get out of the river, you hop on your bike, and then you put your pack raft in your backpack and you keep going. So that's also a really cool thing that we want to try actually in Shikoku, in maybe in the Shimanto area, or maybe around. We want to explore and do multi-day trips like that soonish, maybe this year, maybe next year, and maybe think about offering that as well if that's something that people might be interested in. As far as the current situation goes, that's not really something that's possible because of the risk that's involved in that. So like stay with people for several days, but that's definitely something that we think about because it's so easy to carry, and it's so easy to go around with a backraft.
That's awesome. That really opens up versatility a lot. Let's mention some of the prices. It looks like the price for PackRaft. Can you tell us how long it takes?
Yeah.
Like, is it a half day, and about the cost?
Yeah, so it is a half day. It's around, depending on again the water level, because if it's really high, it's going to go faster. It's around 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours. The whole tour. So from the moment that you come in the base to the moment that you leave, it's around 3 hours ish. Again, depending on the person's skills, if they want to stop on the side, if they want to do a rapid twice, and it's 8,500 yen. So that's the case for all of our tours actually. So it's pretty easy, straightforward. It's the same price except for the tent sauna, which is another thing altogether. But the price is the same for canyoning as well. And canyoning is around the same time, I would say. Yeah. So our trips usually start at like 9, and then by 12-ish, 11:30, you can go about your day.
That's awesome. And it looks like so much fun. So you've been doing this for a year. What size groups can you take? Do you keep it small, like 5 people, or?
Yeah, we do. So for the pack rafting, with one guide is around 4 people only. So if we have two guides, we can go up to like 7, 8 boats. And then for canyoning is around the same. So the max is around 7, 8 people. Yeah.
And then it looks like there's some rapids or certain areas of the river where the water flows faster. So in that case, of course, you're just following downstream. But on other parts of the river, is there not so much water flow and you can go back and forth, like different
Mm.
levels?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we have basically after rapids, there's what's called an eddy on the side. So the water goes in the other direction. So let's say the water is going this way, down here, there's going to be kind of the water going the opposite direction. So let's say you do a rapid, then you can kind of stop on the side, and there's often an area where you can carry your boat and go around the rapid. So if you want to do it twice, you can always just carry your boat up and then go back again. If you, which happened to me, if you flip and you want to, like they say in Japan, revenge. So you want to do it again, that's something that's possible. And as far as the water flows, it's I would say the rapids are around, if they're not right next to right one after another, they're about maybe 100 meter down from each other. Like that's kind of the furthermost, the biggest gap that we have in between the rapids. It's not continuous in the sense that it's every 2 minutes that you have a rapid, but you have time to enjoy yourself. You have time to jump in the water. We also have cliff jumps on the pack rafting tour. So that's also something that's possible to do. With the Lion King rock, actually, we've just baptized it like last week. Uh, and and yeah, so you have time to chill, but there's also times where you need to focus and try to go down the rapid the right way.
Is that's what's happening in this photo? Is he jumping off the Lion King rock?
That's not the Lion King rock, not that
No,
one.
okay.
No. So that
That's
we
a
have,
great photo. I love it.
yeah, it was a tourist from Tokyo, I believe. That was in maybe April last year, I believe. Prior to all the lockdowns and emergency states. So that one is not the Lion King rock, but the other one's kind of little perch, and it does kind of look like the Lion King rock. So that obviously that's why we named it like
That's awesome.
yeah.
I grew up in Hawaii on Oahu, and we have Waimea Bay, which is a beautiful beach, and they have a big rock next to it. And that's something that we always wanted to do is go to Waimea Bay to jump off the rock into the water. And it's such a thrilling part. And of course, in canyoning, you have some jumping off, not as big rocks, but jumping off into the water as well. So it's nice you've put it as a part of the pack rafting tour as well. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one of our goals was to get people in at least in the flow state. So you're not just walking through being like, oh yeah, this like it's beautiful. I'm enjoying this, but you also have to. There's some level of challenge, and you have to focus on what you're doing. And I think that's a big part of the why we're doing this is to get people out of their heads and into their bodies and to truly experience the nature and what they're doing and to focus. So that was something that is super important for me, and the theme almost of my year, trying to kind of challenge myself with, like I said, surfing, with backrafting, with cliff jumping, with things like that. So we're just trying to get more people out there and experiencing the same thing.
That I love that. Do you ever do like because you teach yoga, do you ever do like morning yoga and then pack rafting and then afternoon canyoning, like put everything into one day? Or do you kind of spread it out with different groups?
So the yoga teaching I mostly do in the city because I unfortunately can't really teach in Japanese. So I teach in English in Kochi City. That's around once a week that I do that. That's something that would definitely be possible in the future once my level of Japanese gets a little bit higher, so a little bit better. But that's not something that we've done just yet. We've done some tent sauna and with the package of going pack rafting or canyoning, but not yoga yet. But that's a good idea, actually. I thought about it like a year ago, and then I kind of forgot about it. So that's a good reminder.
I love that idea. I would love, waking up real early, having yoga like on the riverside, doing a little pack rafting, then have a nice breakfast, and then do something else. Like I love those things set together. And because you have the skills, seems perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Let's
Yeah, and
yeah, go ahead.
so the actually now we're up. It's not on our website, but I think that's something that you'll think is very interesting. Now we're operating from an abandoned shogakko, so primary school. So since it's a small town. I think, as in a lot of other places in Japan, there's a lot of abandoned schools. And I mean, it's not exactly abandoned. They use it for storage, but there's also a co-working space that they've created. So you can rent one of the classrooms or two of the classrooms, which is what we're doing. And then we've built, our changing rooms, everything, the life jackets, rack, everything there. And we're operating from that. But in the future, maybe we're gonna want to build a bigger space if needs be. And that's something that I am definitely keeping in mind, like a big yoga deck, and then the rafting area, possibly a little zero waste store, like I was mentioning before to you. And yeah, I have a lot of ideas on the
That's
next step.
awesome. I'm so excited for what you and Violet are doing for that area because, like Violet was saying as well, she introduced a place on the NHK program, which is reusing the old abandoned school. And when you lose population from these areas, that's one of the effects, right? The schools become abandoned, but you can still use the building, or a lot of the houses are abandoned. So you could still remodel an old house that has a great view and make a deck for yoga and, a little cafe or something. There's so much potential. That's
Mm.
awesome.
Yeah, there's so much potential. There's so many buildings that are not in use here, and again, like you said, the views are amazing, and there's so much good material. Like, it's really well done. It's just that there's not a lot of people living here anymore. And as far as our town go, I think there's a lot more new people moving in, and I think that is thanks to Ken, the who started the brewery in the mountains. So he's kind of trying to get some of his American friends to move here, which has been kind of cool. And then we moved here, so we're kind of trying in our own way to um, to revitalize the town and to get more new energy here. And so I just in my neighborhood, I'm definitely the youngest one here. So, and obviously I'm the only person coming from overseas. So, so yeah, it's cool.
That's awesome. Since I have it on screen, can you explain about the sauna tent? I love that idea.
Yeah, so we started that last winter because we were thinking, what could we do that could be interesting in the winter as well? Obviously, going canyoning when it's like January is not something that's very appealing because it's really cold. So we thought about the sauna tent idea, and so it's something that you can literally, again, pitch pretty much anywhere, on any beach in Niyodo or around, obviously. So we do rentals next to the Niyodo River and also the Doi River on a beach called Miyazaki Beach sometimes. So that's going to depend on what the person wants slash what are the best conditions for each beach. So depending on the water level, the water color as well. So we kind of decide where it goes, except if the person really requests a certain place. So we set that up for the people. We provide all the wood necessary. We provide also the hinoki essential oil that's made in Niyodogawa. So I think it's Japanese cypress in English. And so you mix that with your water, and then you put it on the rocks, and that's creating some steam. So it's a wet sauna. It's not a dry sauna, and you go and swim in the water, come back in the sauna, and then relax. And we also have a kind of a little chilling area, so another tent that you can go in to relax. So we kind of set that up on the spot. We never leave it for long periods of time. So if we have a booking, then we go set it up. We leave it for maybe 1 or 2 days, if we have other bookings, and then we take it back with us. And yeah, everything is provided. You just have to bring your swimsuit and a towel, and that's it.
That's awesome. So I don't imagine there's much demand in summer, although people like to go in onsens even in summer. How about the sauna tent? Just winter, the colder time of year, maybe?
Well, for myself, I would say so, but surprisingly enough, we have bookings in July and August. So
Wow.
yeah, I don't know. Like, I think it's already a sauna enough outside, but that's just me. Like, some people actually around here, they even in the summer, when it's really, really hot and it's humid, they're like, oh, the river water is so cold. And yeah, that's the point, kind of thing. So I think a lot of people are looking for that extra warmth to have the courage to go in the water, I think. And also, like you mentioned, people in Japan, they go to the onsen regardless of the temperature. So even if it's 40, 45 degrees outside, they're still going to go to the onsen. I think it's kind of the same dynamic here, where they want also the experience, which I definitely understand, because it's amazing. You have this little window in the sauna tent, so you can see the river from inside the tent. And yeah, it's the experience itself. I can definitely understand. The heat, that's something else. I would definitely do it more during the winter, but
Yeah, I would love to do it in the winter and then go out in that challenge, dipping in that freezing river. But I see the attraction too, like even during the hot season, like to really sweat it out. And then if the river is cool, then it still feels like a contrast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's lovely. Let's show your website. Let me see if I can present it from my computer here. Mm. Can you see it there? Is it showing up? Let
It's
me
showing.
see. Let me get rid of those. And let's see if it goes there.
Yeah, I think it's on now.
Is it on now?
I
Okay.
believe so. Yeah.
So you've got a great website, and you introduced some other area local eating like cafe cha asunado,
Mm-hmm.
Ichigoya and Ikegawa. So these are all local cafes. Is there any vegan, plant-based, vegetarian options? I know this is a big issue for international visitors.
Yeah, it's a very good question, and I'm very conscious of that myself. As far as these places go, they're mostly sweet places, so you can definitely get some manju that is vegan because it's beans and rice flour. It's really hard to explain in English without the Japanese words, but for people who live in Japan, you know what it is. So it's mochi basically with sweet bean paste inside. So that's an option. But as far as the meal itself goes, Asunado offers really nice options, but there's always one piece of chicken on the plate. You can always decide to not eat that. But as far as the rest of the set goes, it is mostly from what I think, I'm not sure about the dashi and everything, but it would be for the most part vegan. And then they offer also cha udon, so they make udon with the tea powder inside, and it's delicious. It's really good. As far as Ichigoya Cafe goes, the one that's right next to us, from my understanding, there's no teishoku that is vegan or vegetarian. And in general, in the town, it's, again, it's not really pro vegan. I think it's if you want to go that route, you would have to cook for yourself for the most part, which is I'm not 100% vegan but I'm mostly plant based, and I have to cook for myself most days here. Even ordering stuff like quinoa and stuff, that's I have to order that online, unfortunately.
Which
Yeah.
is very typical of most parts of Japan and us too. If we want to eat vegan, there's a few places we can go in any city. Hiroshima has a few places, but it's not easy. It's getting easier. At least there seems to be an understanding now about what it is, which definitely helps.
Yeah, it's actually really funny because the first time that I mentioned it to someone, like you said, there's more understanding of what it is to be plant based or vegan. But the first time that I mentioned it to someone in Japanese, I said, "Ma niku taberemasen," みたいな. Like I said, I can't eat meat, and the person immediately replied with, "Ninniku tabereru," like ninniku being garlic, but since the word is similar, they're like, "Can you eat garlic?" Because just of the niku word. Anyway, so for me, I was like, okay, they like some people really don't have don't know what it is, and now I think, like you said, it's more known and understood what being vegan and vegetarian is. But yeah, there's obviously still a road ahead, but.
The website, you've got a lot of great videos. Are you taking the videos with GoPro? And it looks like a 360-degree camera.
So we have a lot of videos and cameras. We have a drone. We have, I think, we have two GoPros and one GoPro Max. So that was the big, most of, the investment for us was really much in the content we were going to create because we wanted to do justice to what's around us. So I take most of the drone, well, not most, all of the drone videos I take because my husband is scared of piloting a drone, and most of the GoPro content, he's the one who takes. Yeah, he takes the videos. He's either has the GoPro Max on his helmet, or the other GoPro on a kind of a stick, so people the customers can always hold on the GoPro and do that. And actually, the website I made. So thank you.
That's awesome. I saw some of your customers, you've got the GoPro on the helmet as well. So you can put together some cool footage after you go downstream or something. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. We always send the videos and photos for, it's included actually in the price. So we send it to the email that the guests use to book, and so that's super easy. And then on our Instagram, we usually post kind of the best videos of either that day or the week, or it depends kind of how we feel. We should get definitely more uh, on top of posting every single day, but sometimes it's a rainy day, so we don't really have a lot of content to post. But we have, I think, 1 terabyte of footage just from like 4 months last year. So yeah, that's a lot, but it's also great to have. And I want to use some of my skills that I have with video editing and design, and what I've learned in university with the video editing. I've made one of the promotion videos already, but it's almost, I would say, outdated now because we have so much new footage. So yeah, we're quite blessed in that way that whatever we take is going to look good because the place is so beautiful.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. You just can't take a bad photo there, I imagine.
Mm.
One of the things I that surprised me that Violet said for her area, which is not so far from you when we talked last week, is the Wi-Fi, that they have very strong Wi-Fi as a way to incentivize new residents to come and live there. How's the Wi-Fi in your area? Would you be able to live stream next to the river, for example?
Yeah, the Wi-Fi. I mean, in the area that we live in, the Wi-Fi is good, but that's something that we really thought about when we were looking for a house. So that's something that I told the Machiakoba, the town council, that was really important for me and for us. And so some houses, it doesn't even have to be in the mountain. There's just areas, kind of pockets of bad Wi-Fi because it's a different place, different postcode. I'm not too sure why, but that's the thing. And also, when I lived in Otoyo, where Violet lives, in if you cross the border to Tokushima in the mountain, the Wi-Fi would be so much better, and it's like 2 minutes away. So it really depends. You have to do your research, right? Let's say you're thinking about moving in the area. As far as visiting, there is absolutely no problem. You're gonna
Yeah.
get Wi-Fi anywhere, pretty much.
That's great to know, though. I think that definitely adds more appeal, especially now as people are doing more live streaming. And
Mm.
now that you are on HAPS, I hope to see some live streaming from you as
Yes,
you're
yes.
doing yoga or pack rafting or canyoning. I would love to see a live stream of that on HAPS. Please
Mm-hmm.
try it.
Yeah, I'm definitely open to try. I just don't know where to focus my energies. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. There's so many things out there, so I have to learn a little bit more about live broadcast. That's not actually something we've ever done, and I think could be really cool.
It'd be
So
really
yeah.
cool because you can engage with the audience. People can ask you questions, make comments while they see it. And I think there's that layer of transparency as well. Like,
Mhm.
oh, this is really happening. This is not edited. Like this is live. There's that extra connectivity there.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right. And I was thinking about the Instagram accounts that I follow that I like the most, and it's people who are, like you said, transparent and going on live and being vulnerable, and having their face super big on the screen. So yeah, that's the next step that we have. Well, I wouldn't say we have, that we want to take. So we're definitely keeping that in mind.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And in your case, it would be really important that you are using a phone which is also waterproof, which is an added tricky thing, right?
Hmm. Yeah, actually, my phone is not waterproof, funnily enough. But we have a lot of cameras that are. Yeah, that's a good point. I should definitely invest in a waterproof phone.
When I actually did canyoning in Hiroshima, I had my iPhone in a case and I kept it. I really wanted to take care of it, but I wanted to take photos. And then I looked down and the case is full of water. So the phone was full of water, and I was like, oh no, have I killed my phone? And people were like, is that the iPhone 10? No, you're fine. It's waterproof. And I was like, what? That was a bonus. So I didn't kill it. So there
Mm.
are some phones which are made standard waterproof now, which is very useful.
Yeah, that's a great example of, investing in something that's not gonna break. Yeah, and it happens, these things. Some people actually lose their GoPros on the river. They insist on taking it with them, and then they take them out, and they're like, "Yay!" like jumping, and then it's gone. So we're gonna have to go dive and try to find them. Most of the time we can find them because it's kind of a little pool and the water is really clear. But sometimes we don't, and it's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well,
Mm.
that could be like a side business. You could find loads of GoPros
Yeah.
at the bottom as your business expands.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to hear a little bit about your woodworking. You said you started woodworking. Is that you're remodeling an old house that you're living in?
Yeah, sort of. So I mean, as far as the foundations of the house go, we're not changing any of that. But we just finished yesterday the outside area. I can probably share that. So we started in the winter to do woodworking because the area we live in is, so that's one of them here. I don't know if you can see. Is it? Oh yeah, okay, it's there. And so that's all that we've just finished that yesterday, and
Beautiful
you'll
wood.
be able to
Great
see the
wood.
good. Yeah, it's from the town actually. There's a lot of uh, of industries here who do the wood processing. So they go in the mountains. There's a lot of lumberjacks too in the area that they actually, I don't know if you can say import for people, but they import people from other areas in Japan, and these people live in town and do the woodworking. And then we actually bought that straight from the the people who go in the mountain to cut the wood down. So that's quite cool. I can show also the angle. I think I'm gonna have to stop this and then share it one more time. So that is the angle that we have from this balcony. So that down there is just it's the canyoning, the place where we go canyoning. It's not that place.
That
That's
is
the kids canyoning place.
gorgeous. Wow. So you're right
Yeah.
next to the river, right outside.
We are. Yeah, we are. And that's the place where we go kids canyoning, which is also something that we do with it's kind of like a private tour with a family, and we can go canyoning there. That's not where we go with our main canyoning activity. It's higher up, but we can still see the water level, so it's easy to
And
gauge.
it must be a bit cooler there because you're next to the water and so many beautiful trees.
Yeah, it's amazing, and we've just remade the roof, so we can go there when it's raining also, and it's beautiful. I'm
I
really
love
really
that
that's
simple counter idea. So you can
mm,
work there, you can eat there, you can just sit and take in the scenery. I love it. Beautiful.
yeah. We actually found that well, found the piece of wood. It wasn't exactly found. It was in the house where we live, but it was just on the side of the house. Like we're kind of as we rented the house, it was just on the side. So we're like, that's a beautiful piece of wood. So we just resanded it, revarnished it, and put it on there. And then I made these little stools on the side, and then we remade the floor, the two of us. But this previously was just like a huge mess. Like the floor was rotten, and actually we went there a week ago to the day with some friends, and the floor collapsed. So we're like, okay, we need to remake it, and so we've made it over the last week. But yeah, we're really, that's the thing that I like the most about the house is the view that we have here.
That's gorgeous. Do you get many mosquitoes in summer, or it's not so bad?
It's, I mean, as far as I'm aware, at this time of the year, it's not too bad. It could definitely be worse. And as far as the creepy crawlies go, I haven't seen any mukades. Well, I've seen one mukade, which is a record. I used to live in the mountains, and it was a daily occurrence. So for
For
those who don't
anybody
know,
who
yeah.
who doesn't know mukade, that's a Japanese centipede, and they're big. They remind me of the ones I saw in Hawaii growing up there. They're big
Mhm.
ones.
Yeah, I have a friend here actually, one of the ALTs. He said the same thing, that he's from Hawaii, and he says that the you guys have got the same ones there. And yeah, they're horrible. I love all animals, but they're horrible. They want to see the world burn. They go. They're very violent, and there's nothing good about them.
I have to say, no, there is something good about them. They
Is
are
there?
really good for growing vegetables. They are really
Oh,
good for the garden. They are the predator of the dirt. So if we can just keep them outside and keep them away from the house, that would be perfect.
okay, then you're giving me a little bit more love towards them, but still, I must say that I have to keep a good distance. Actually, I've never had a phobia or anything, but that's the closest thing to a phobia that I have.
Yeah.
But if I see one, I think about it all day. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. Like, I hate them.
Yeah, I mean,
But yeah.
yeah, with roaches, I grew up with roaches. I grew up with centipedes. I didn't grow up with snakes. So whenever I see
Mm-hmm.
snakes here, I'm a bit scared.
Do you guys
Um,
have some in Hiroshima? The
oh yeah,
centipedes?
but they're not well, there are some dangerous ones. The mamushi snake, the one with the triangular head, you can
Mm.
find that on Miyajima Island sometimes when you're hiking. So it is around. You just gotta be aware. But just keep remembering, even with the centipedes, they're more afraid of us than we are of them. So if you make a big noise or shoo them
Mm.
outside, they're not coming for you. They just happen to be, and then they sting you with a defense, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, don't
I'll
worry
need a
too much.
I'll need a little bit more convincing on that, but yeah, sure. I believe you. Yeah. Anyway,
Uh,
the thing is, I haven't seen a lot here, which is
good,
great. I'm
good,
really
good.
glad. Yeah.
Well, we have a few more minutes. Is there anything we haven't talked about that you'd like to mention?
About the business, well, about the area, yeah, it's just I think a great place to go off the beaten tracks. Yeah, I think a lot of people who come and visit Japan stay within that. I think they call it the Gold Line, I believe. I'm not exactly sure the term, but from
The
Tokyo
golden triangle.
yeah, that's it. So they go from Tokyo, Osaka, going to maybe Kyoto, and then staying within that area. But I think Shikoku, especially if you've visited Japan before and you're looking for another area to visit, I love Shikoku so much, and I think there's so much potential here, and a lot of people who see this place, I'm sure, would eventually maybe want to move here. So that's something that I'm also trying to promote, because the more the merrier. And it's I think that the best thing about this place is definitely being surrounded by nature, and the bigger the community that we have of expats and people who have new ideas, the best. Yeah, I just want some friends, basically. Please come. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Well, don't you think that the whole coronavirus, work from home, telecommuting, staycation, workcation, all of these new terms have really been more readily adopted in Japan and around the world since coronavirus. So, in a way, rural areas which are beautiful, which have Wi-Fi like yours, are perfect. People can go and stay for a while. It doesn't cost too much to stay for a while. It doesn't take too long to get there.
Mhm.
So I really hope we'll start seeing more residents, but also more visitors staying a while. That's certainly more sustainable travel when people spend longer in one area instead of, busily,
Mhm.
hastily going around Japan on the rail pass. I hope we see less of that and more slow travel for sure.
I agree. I agree. We're here to welcome you. Please come.
That's awesome. Well, you guys are doing so much. You have so many services and great products on offer. And it sounds like you're even developing more. I look forward to seeing yoga classes on your deck and vegan eating out by the river somewhere. I think
Mhm.
there's, as we welcome international tourists back next spring to next summer, I think we're going to start seeing more of these kind of sustainable options kind of develop more. So it'd be wonderful if you guys can get ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's all things that are very inspiring to me. So we're hoping to get there and hoping to get more outbound visitors too, so we can show around how beautiful it is around here. So,
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining and sharing all your insights. I can't wait to come and visit you guys. Thank you so much.
thank you very much for having me.
It's wonderful to have you. And thank you, everybody, for joining today. We didn't get many comments or questions. I think people were just enjoying our conversation and your beautiful photos. So definitely check out Niyodo. Can you tell us the website address?
Yeah, it's Niyodo Adventure. So Niyodo, Niyyodo, adventure being ADVENTURE. That was difficult. Adventure.com. So and our Instagram is the same name, so you can find us there.
Wonderful. And you guys are pretty active and very quick in responding. I engaged with you to set up this talk. So thanks for the quick response. That means a lot. And I'm sure customers would be very happy as well. Thank you so much, Zoe. That was
Thank you.
awesome.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.